When I was a boy each week, on Sunday we would go to church and pay attention to the priest. He would read the holy word and consecrate the holy bread, and everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now.
Good morning and welcome to Fountain Street Church. I am the Reverend Christopher Rowe, and on behalf of this entire community, it is one of my greatest pleasures every week to welcome you to worship this morning. This morning, on this June 21st, it is not only Father's Day, but it is also our first Sunday in the Summer Speaker Series. This is a beautifully produced series that will run for 12 weeks and is put together by our esteemed Religious Services Committee. And so on behalf of our congregation who looks forward to this series every year, thank you to the Religious Services Committee for bringing this to life. This morning we welcome Cameron Streidl to our space, only it's a little different. You'll notice I'm standing in front of our chapel doors, and if it were any other time, you would be coming up these steps from the lobby or down the hall from the narthex and into this cool and air-conditioned and comfortable chapel space. But we know that these are not usual and normal times. We still continue to worship virtually together, but it doesn't diminish our assembly, even though we are diasporate. And so with the spirit of freeing our mind and growing our souls and changing our world, and for our deep and shared appreciation for Fountain Street Church, and with everybody who has made this morning possible, I say once again, welcome to Fountain Street Church. I'm so glad you're here today.
Songs were made to sing while we're young. Every day is spring while we're young. None can refuse. Time flies so fast, too dear to lose and too sweet to last. Though it may be just for today, share our love we must while we may. So blue the skies, all sweet surprise shines before our eyes while we're young. to lose and too sweet to last. Though it may be just for today, share our love we must while we may. So blue the skies, oh sweet surprise, shines before our eyes while we're young. So blue the skies, oh sweet surprise, shines before our eyes while we're young.
Good morning, Fountain Streeters. This is Cam Streidl coming to you in the first of the summer series. This is take one, my first video attempt ever, so bear with me. I come to you today as an expert in absolutely nothing. I've been curious all my life. I got a degree in geology and biology and worked in the field for a few years, but I'm currently employed in plastic sales. So speaking to you on the planet Earth as a living organism, well, let's see what we've got. My mother was a well-educated and intelligent woman, and she taught all of her 8 children to appreciate and observe nature and to be naturally curious. And while she was a devout Catholic, she also taught us about evolution. In our neighborhood, she taught us to observe things such as oak galls, colorful globular swellings which fell from oak trees. They're caused by a gall wasp injecting a hormone and laying an egg in a leaf stem, which then balloons into a colorful hollow globe, enclosing the developing wasp larvae. While walking along the shores of Lake Michigan, she told us of the many fossils we found: Petoskey stones, hexagonaria coral, other coral species, halocites, favicites, and horn corals, crinoid stems and segments, which proliferate many of our beaches. Crinoids, also known as sea lilies, are marine animals that make up the class Crinoidea, one of the classes of the phylum Echinodermata, which also includes the starfish, brittle stars, sea urchins, and sea cucumbers. Adult crinoids are characterized by having the mouth located on the upper surface of the body. There are 625 species which exist today on the bottom of the ocean. During the Paleozoic period, Michigan was tropical and covered by an inland sea which was filled with these corals and crinoids. Minerals precipitated out of this water and formed the limestone layers under so much of the state, the gypsum under Grand Rapids, and the salt under Detroit. One of the first times I saw a globe of the earth as a child, I couldn't help but notice that the eastern outlines of the Americas and the western outlines of Africa matched up like puzzle pieces. Later, when I saw topographic maps of the seafloor with the oceanic ridges and trenches between the continents, I started gaining a deeper understanding of the Earth's processes. As a geology student, I learned about plate tectonics, also known as continental drift. The Earth's crust is made up of plates. These plates at our planet's surface move because of intense heat in the Earth's core that causes molten rock in the mantle layer to move. It moves in a pattern called a convection cell that forms when warm material rises, cools, and eventually sinks. As the cool material sinks, it is warmed and rises again. When two plates carrying continents collide, the continental crust buckles and rocks pile up, creating towering mountain ranges. When an ocean plate collides with another ocean plate, or a plate carrying continents, one plate will bend and slide under the other. This process is called subduction. The area referred to as the Ring of Fire, where an estimated 75% of the planet's volcanoes are located, such as Mount Tambora of Indonesia, the largest volcano there, erupted in 1815 and became the largest volcanic eruption in recorded history. The eruption over 6 months spewed 12 cubic miles of gas, dust, and rock into the air. The initial blast killed 10,000 islanders, and the resultant temperature drop from blocking out the sun across the globe caused frosts throughout the following summer, resulting in 100,000 deaths worldwide from crop failure and freezing during the year without summer. The Earth's continents have moved around its surface throughout the billions of years of its existence. Pangaea existed between about 299 million years ago at the start of the Permian period of geologic time to about 180 million years ago during the Jurassic period. It remained in its fully assembled state for some 100 million years before it began to break up. We find geologic evidence of this once supercontinent of Pangaea, of similar rock and mineral types, matching up along current continental edges where they once were joined. The fossil record also shows continuity where land masses were once joined. As continents moved apart from one another and became isolated, the plants and animals on each differentiated through evolution. This is particularly evident on isolated islands. An island, especially a remote one, may be colonized by relatively few species. This allows the members of one species to exploit numerous different lifestyles or niches, a phenomenon called adaptive radiation. As the individual groups adapt to their different niches, they may evolve into distinct species. Consider Australia with its many marsupials, non-placental mammals, flightless birds, and even egg-laying monotremes, the platypus and echidna. Madagascar is unusual not only for its endemic species, lemurs, the tenrex, the fossa, but also for the species that are conspicuously absent. Because of Madagascar's isolation, many groups of plants and animals are entirely absent from the island. Their descendants underwent dwarfing and evolved into species unique to this island. So are the species unique in Java, Sumatra, New Guinea, Hawaii, the Galapagos Islands. So are they unique in each isolated cave system. And life finds a way to exist in every temperature, altitude, depth, and climate on planet Earth. Extremophiles thrive in the hot pools in Yellowstone, as well as at enormous depths and pressures in our oceans. The more we look, the more we find creatures which live with no sunlight and no oxygen, two things we have always defined as necessities for life. Glacier worms live inside glaciers. Brine shrimp live in extremely salty environments. Organisms that live around hydrothermal vents don't rely on sunlight and photosynthesis, which never reach those depths. Instead, bacteria and archaea use a process called chemosynthesis to convert minerals and other chemicals in the water into energy. Tube worms, crabs, shrimp, and fish all live in this chemically dense water miles deep. Tardigrades, also known as water bears, are polyextremophiles, which can withstand freezing, boiling, radiation, high pressure, boiling alcohol, and can put themselves into suspended animation until conditions improve. The newly discovered worm species, Hesiocacia methanicola, may have some influence on the formation of natural gas deposits on the sea floor, and if so, on how we go about mining gas as a source of energy. It's called the methane iceworm. It has already helped define life as we know it. The bacteria that the iceworms eat and the methane both species grow on could provide clues about early life on this and other planets. The area where the iceworms live is under extremely high pressure and at 7 degrees centigrade, very low temperatures. The iceworm community is in itself a new ecosystem. We found an animal living in an environment that we never possibly thought of as the habitat for animals. The ice was formed when methane gas rose up from deposits deep beneath the seafloor. Ancient bacteria that may have lived beneath the Earth's crust, feeding on this gas, migrated with it, eventually settling in the ice. The Lazarus microbe, Deinococcus radiolarians, is a so-called extremophile bacterium that can survive intense bouts of heat and UV radiation that shatters its genome into hundreds of DNA fragments. It can withstand about 3,000 times as much radiation as we can. Without a genome, the microbe is effectively dead because it can't synthesize its proteins necessary for life. This is the first case of a living cell that clinically dies. Its DNA is chopped into little pieces and it has no metabolism when desiccated. And yet, as long as it can reconstitute its genome, it reconstitutes its own life. The highest mountains, the deepest valleys, the tallest waterfalls, the largest freshwater lakes, and the longest rivers are all at the bottom of the ocean. Water covers 70% of our planet, and we have explored only 5% of that water from surface to bottom. The average depth of the Pacific Ocean is over 2 miles deep. The more we look for things, the more we find. Now that we're losing so many species to habitat loss, climate change, poaching, etc., we're looking closer at the biology of Mother Earth. Don't think for a minute that we've discovered all the species there are to discover. We continue to find new mammals, amphibians, reptiles, fish, sharks, trees, etc. The world's largest living thing is even bigger than a blue whale, which happens to be the largest animal ever living. Meet Armorillia osteoi, or as it's nicknamed, the humongous fungus. It's an organism that covers 2,385 acres, almost 4 square miles, of the Malheur National Forest in Oregon. In the Fish Lake National Forest in Utah, there's a colony of quaking aspen that is an estimated 80,000 years old, though no individual tree currently alive is anywhere near that age. Even the oldest non-clonal trees in the world, at some 4,000 plus years of age, don't approach the age of the root system of this organism known as Pando, or the trembling giant. On the western edge of the Colorado Plateau, a single root system has been metabolically alive for over 80,000 years, or maybe more. There's some debate on the age, with that figure being a conservative estimate. Taken as a whole, all the individual trunks, branches, and leaves weigh in at an estimated 6,600 short tons, the heaviest known organism on the planet. And it's a tree, or rather trees, operating on an entirely different time scale than most other planets, and certainly any animal, covering 106 acres. Paleontology, the study of fossils of past living creatures, may be in a higher discovery mode than ever. I follow certain websites and we continue to make discoveries of life further and further back in the Earth's past, and we find more and more new species. There are microbes living deep in the earth, deep in solid rock in our crust. An endolith is an organism, archaeon, bacterium, fungus, lichen, alga, or amoeba, that lives inside rock, coral, animal shells, or in the pores between mineral grains of a rock. Many are extremophiles, living in places long imagined inhospitable to life. Not only is life abundant across the surface of the earth and the depths of the ocean, but deep within the earth's crust in layers of rocks miles underground. This is true across the globe whenever deep mining exposes rock layers to observation or core samples are taken. The entire planet is truly inhabited with life forms across its surface, from its highest mountains to its deepest sub-ocean and subterranean depths. And each of its multicellular creatures has life forms covering them and inside them. Don't panic, but did you know that you have mites living in the follicles of your eyelashes? It's true. Many animals have different, unique to them species of mites living around their eyes, different ones in their noses, and in the unique biomes under their tails. While this is a poorly studied field, it is estimated that there is at least 1 million unique species of mites in the world. And each of them has bacteria living inside them to help them metabolize your secretions. And each human has more alien cells than strictly human cells making up our bodies. It's estimated that more than 60% of the cells inside the human body, by number, not weight, are bacteria, virus, etc. Some we'd be better off without, others we can't function without. And evolution continues to shape these tiny life forms and the larger life forms which make up their world. This story has no clear ending, but I must try to wrap it up. So the earth is covered with life forms of unimaginable diversity and complexity, from its highest heights to its deepest caves, canyons, and oceans, and even miles down into the rocky crust. From pole to pole, these life forms survive in temperatures from sub-zero to the boiling point of water, thriving on oxygen to frozen methane in the midst of poisonous gas to zero sunlight. Life often lives within other living forms and within those forms, etc., like Russian Matryoshka dolls. Our own bodies are like planets with different biospheres for the creatures which inhabit us. Thank you. It's been a pleasure having this talk with you today.
Every week at Fountain Street Church, we have the opportunity to give back a little bit of our resources for the betterment of not only this church, but also our community. The summer series is no different, and the offering is still taken week after week, supplemented with beautiful music and inspiring sounds. And so as you do so this week, think about the ways in which your gifts and your resources can have a positive impact on our congregation and on our broader world. Think about the ways in which money, even the smallest amounts, go so far in freeing the mind, growing the soul, and changing the world, and perhaps most importantly of all, radically expressing our unconditional love to those we may never know. With that spirit in mind, the offering will now be taken.
Grab your coat and get your hat. Leave your worry on the doorstep. Just direct your feet to the sunny side of the street. Can't you hear that pitter-pat, and that happy tune is your step. Life can be so sweet on the sunny side of the street. I used to walk in the shade with those blues on parade, but I'm not afraid. This rover moved over. If I never have a cent, I'll still be rich as Rockefeller, with gold dust at my feet on the sunny side of the street. I used to walk in the shade with those blues on parade, but I'm not afraid. This rover moved over. If I never have a cent, I'll still be rich as Rockefeller, with gold dust at my feet on the sunny, not on the shady, nor on the cloudy, never on the rainy. I'll be singing, laughing, dancing on the sunny side of the street, on the sunny side, the sunny side of the street.
This morning, as an invitation to a space of prayer, I invite you to hear these words from Henry David Thoreau. Why should we live in such a hurry and waste of life? We are determined to be starved before we are hungry. I wish to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life. I wish to learn what life has to teach, and not, when I come to die, discover that I have not lived. I do not wish to live what is not life. Living is so dear. Nor do I wish to practice resignation unless it is quite necessary. I wish to live deep and suck out all of the marrow of life. I want to cut a broad swath, to drive life into a corner and reduce it into its lowest terms. If it proves to be mean, then to set the whole and genuine meanness of it and publish its meanness to the world. Or, if it is sublime, to know it by experience and to be able to give a true account of it. Will you join me in a shared space of silence? Spirit of the universe that even time cannot contain, source of eternal truth and great wisdom and unconditional love, give us the strength this day to slow down, to let go of the hurry, to live deliberately, to live deeply, and to encounter and account for all that life has to offer. Give us the strength to go on in this time, freeing our minds and growing our souls so that we might change the world. Amen. Thank you everyone for your participation this morning. Thank you to the Religious Services Committee once again who has set this season into motion. Thank you to Cameron for your beautiful words. Thank you to Robin Connell for your gifts of music, and of course to Danny Heck for producing this virtual service. Until we see one another again, my friends, go into the week in peace and in love. Happy Father's Day, and once again, welcome to the summer series. I'm so glad you are with us this morning, and until we see one another again, stay resilient and be healthy, my friends.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing